magic of sprays and reinkers is so much fun. Well, let's be honest, we've all had those moments where fun turns into a giant muddy puddle on our favorite cardstock. Today, I want to share the process behind my recent short and walk you through how I layer water, sprays, and reinkers to keep the colors vibrant and scrappy instead of just being messy. I'm Hannah from the Crafty Maven Getaway, and let's talk through my process. As you can see, I'm using the Distress Stain Spray. I just sprayed 1 or 2 sprays on my paper, and I'm going to use a paintbrush that is that round one, and it has a little bit of a point at the end. I really like that. It helps with precision. And I'm just going to move this blob around. Right now it just looks like a blob. And I'm kind of just trying to figure out how much liquid water to use with the spray. I don't want this color to be too heavy. It's quite a dark color. So I'm going to keep it kind of like this. And I just moved it around. And now to lock in this color, I am going to get my heat gun. You're going to see me utilize this heat gun a lot in this process because this is a big part of how I keep my colors vibrant and how I keep them from not being too muddy. And that is drying my page. I do like to move my heat gun around so it doesn't burn because it can. And I also move it around because I want to keep this puddle, if you will, of media, this blob, just kind of contained. I want it to stay in that spot because I'm going to add more media. And by rotating it and moving my gun around, my heat gun, I'm going to keep the colors all, that color all in that space. I want those little tiny droplets from when I sprayed it to be present and so that you can see it, because later when I go and add more splatters, you're going to see the different colors, and so this helps create those layers. I really absolutely love how this looks like marble. This Distress ink spray is so pretty. So the 2 of the products that I'm using on my page today are from past kits from the Crafty Maven Getaway. The Crafty Maven Getaway is a kit club, a mixed media kit club, and we have a different kit each month, and you get colors that coordinate together. So if you want to know more about it, you can look in the link below. So I'm going to heat both sides just so that the bottom isn't too wet, and because I know I'm going to add more. So this is one of the reinkers that I'm using. And I'm using 2 different colors. There's a really dark color and this kind of lighter color. And I just add a little bit on my side mat. You can always add more media, but you can't add less, right? So, and this color is much more vibrant. You can see it's darker, it's brighter. And so I'm going to really mix water around with my paintbrush. I love to create big droplets. This is just one thing that I absolutely love to do. And you just get a little bit of water on your brush. You dip it in your media, whatever the media is that's liquid, and then you put your paintbrush up above your layout, and then you let it drip. So the higher you have your paintbrush, the bigger the splatter will be. So, but then you also have less control of where it's going to land. So I'm going to go in and just kind of hit different areas where that big blob is. And I have those smaller blobs of the purple, right? I'm trying to think about where I have the different colors. Now, if I had just sprayed and added liquid to liquid, because these 2 colors are opposite on the color wheel, it would be really muddy and it would probably turn a nasty brown and it would look gross. But because I used my heat gun and I dried it, they're not going to meld together too much. There might be a little bit of blending, but for the most part it will stay, each color will stay distinct. Because the 2 purples are really similar on the color wheel, right? Those are even though they're 2 different color purples, they are still purple. And so when they come together, they blend a little bit easier. So that is one tip that you can use on your layouts so that if you want it to be a lot more watercolory and blended, that you want to have colors that are closer together. And then I just kind of move things around with my paintbrush. So this is why I love to use a paintbrush, because I can use it with precision. And then I can kind of control where there are certain spots. And I'm definitely thinking about how much space is covering my layout, right? How much media is on there, because I'm going to build a layout on this later. So later you can actually watch and you can see how I'm going to do that, but we'll talk about that later. So I'm going to move stuff around, and I move my layout around quite a bit just so that I can keep hitting it with the heat gun, because I really want to dry certain areas so it doesn't become a whole lot of something that I didn't mean for it to become, right? So I can always add more water. I can always add more media, but I can't take it away as easily. I will say, if you use like a baby wipe or a paper towel, you can soak up a little bit of the liquid. So that is an option if you've realized that you've used way too much. um, and if you've used a lot and you're not sure what to do, just set it off to the side, leave it for a few days, and it will dry. It will take a long time, but it will dry. So that is also another option. And here you can see I know I want to use just a little bit more of that lighter color. I want a little bit more of the little splatters, and so because that spot is dry, those will be more distinct, right? And as it hits with some of the liquid that is already still a little bit wet, it's gonna meld together, and I'm just gonna use my heat gun. And I really use this to manipulate how it looks, because I can move my layout around. I can push the water or the liquid around. Now it is gonna have kind of a drying effect and whatnot, and that's okay. Like, it is gonna meld together, and if I just keep adding, it's gonna end up just being one big blob. So at this point, I know I'm almost done. I just want to fill in a few more spots, because I am still thinking about the fact that I'm gonna have to put pictures on here, and I don't want to cover all this media up. I want some of it to peek out. Now that you've got this beautiful, vibrant background all finished, right? You're gonna need some ideas so you know how to layer your papers and your photos and all these little goodies, right? And create something gorgeous and amazing. And you can do just that by staying tuned and clicking somewhere around here. I'll have where the next video is, so you can see how I put everything else together. And I will see you guys around. Have a great scrappy week. Bye.